Misinformation and misconception. Two things that are universally present in any piece of media. But one piece of fiction that can't seem to catch a break when it comes to these two things is H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu Mythos. From dorky satanic LARPers painting it as some mystic mumbo-jumbo, to mentally disturbed e-girls claiming it has some secret pagan spell to curse your family, to whoever this guy is.
Secret god, the most powerful and terrifying of all of Lovecraft's creations, isn't a creation at all because it actually exists.
Oh yeah, just a quick side note. Azathoth is just as real as this guy's eyebrows. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, misconceptions and misinformation regarding the mythos. Just like how Shub-Nagraf doesn't run short on children, the mythos doesn't run short on dubious claims made by fake fans and tourists.
And pseudo-intellectual types.
And there is one new misconception that's becoming more prolific. And nobody has called out its bullshit until now. Which is the misconception that Yog-Sothoth is the supreme being and not Azathoth. My name is Sporgy the Menace, or you can call me Sporgy, and today, or tonight, my adorable, sweet, sweet moon beast, I'll be debunking the greatest misconception in Lovecraft's fiction.
In recent memory.
Now, for those of you who are going, I never heard of this misconception before, well, it's because it's purely isolated in power scaling circles, well, online power scaling circles. So that explains why you probably never heard of it. So the exact claim that power scalers make to say that Yog-Sothoth is the supreme being and not Azathoth is that Yog-Sothoth is literally everything, and everything is one in Yog-Sothoth. And they point to statements regarding Yog-Sothoth in the Dunwich Horror and Through the Gates of the Silver Key, and how they say that Lovecraft never said that Azathoth is the supreme being and is only a god of chaos. But the thing is, it was never stated that Yog-Sothoth is literally everything or the supreme being in any of Lovecraft's works or any other mythos works, even in those two stories cited. And Lovecraft has stated many times that Azathoth is the supreme being. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'll first go over the statement in the Dunwich Horror, which is this statement right here. Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and the guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. Now, this statement is taken very literally by power scalers, even though it's very clearly supposed to be taken metaphorically. Since if it was taken literally, it wouldn't make much sense as Yog-Sothoth knows himself? Anyway, the metaphor is that this forbidden knowledge is withheld from us, but through Yog-Sothoth can you learn it. Like, Yog-Sothoth is the gate and the key to this knowledge. And in the same passage where this section was taken from, it actually confirms that Yog-Sothoth is a great old one and not literally everything, which is in this statement right here. By their smell can men sometimes know them near, but of their semblance can no man know, saving only in features of those they have begotten are mankind, and of those are there many sorts, differing in likeness from man's truest eidolon, to that shape without sight or substance which is them. They walk unseen and foul in lonely places, where the words have spoken and the rites howl through their seasons. The wind gibbers with their voices, and the earth mutters in their consciousness. For those of you who haven't read the Dunwich Horror yet, which you should, is a great novella, a mysterious and incomparable stench has appeared in the Whately house ever since Willie was born. Willie as in Wilbur Whately. You know, this guy. But anyway, this strange and bizarre stench was also found at the mountain where the Whateleys performed their weird rites and rituals. And in that section I just read, it was revealed that this strange stench is actually signs of a great old one being present. And in that same section, it also describes the children of the great old ones, which is very evident in this sentence right here. For those who don't know, begotten means the conception of a child. And it is the same word that was used to describe Jesus and his conception. It also describes these children as being unseen and walk without sight or substance, and how they bend the forest and crush the cities. And you know what fits that description? The Dunwich horror, the child of Yog-Sothoth. Since in the third act of the novella, the Dunwich horror was terrorizing the village of Dunwich. I keep saying city, god damn it. And it was mostly invisible. So really, the Dunwich horror doesn't prove that Yog-Sothoth is everything or that all is one in Yog-Sothoth. It just confirms that Yog-Sothoth is a great old one. The Dunwich horror should be considered an excellent example of how to write good build-up and foreshadowing without being too explicit, but instead, it gets used for this stupidity. The absolute disrespect. Now, some certain charlatan hacks want you to believe that this section of the Dunwich horror is talking about the Great Ones. You know, the earth gods that play a pivotal role in the dream quest of unknown Kadath. But that is simply not true, because 1. Why would Lovecraft waste time and energy on a story element that has nothing to do with the rest of the novella? This is very uncharacteristic of Lovecraft, because he spent his entire lifetime perfecting his craft. And making this beginner writer flaw will cause him to commit seppuku. Plus, whenever Lovecraft references characters or creatures from other stories, he only spends a few sentences on them, and not an entire paragraph. 2. It was explicitly talking about the Great Old Ones when it mentioned the smell. The smell. And 3. It was explicitly shown that Yog-Sothoth is the father of the Dunwich horror and Wilbur Whateley. Hell, in the story, the Dunwich horror called out his father's name, and old Whateley said that the village will hear and see Lavinia's kid calling out to his father at the mountains. Just read the goddamn story. Man. Next is this section from Through the Gates of the Silver Key. It was an all-in-one, and a one-in-all, of limitless being and self, not merely a thing of one space-time continuum, but allied to the ultimate animating essence of existence' whole unbounded sweep, the last utter sweep which has no confines and which outreaches fantasy and mathematics alike. It was perhaps that which certain secret cults of Earth have whispered of as Yog-Sothoth. Now, this section of the story is used as primary evidence for this claim of Yog-Sothoth being everything, and he is the true supreme being. Until you actually read the full story. Because if you read further down the story, it says this. All descended lines of beings of finite dimensions continue the waves, and all stages of growth in each one of these beings are merely manifestations of one archetypical and eternal being in the space outside dimensions. So what does that mean? It means that Yog-Sothoth's all-in-one and one-in-all title just means that only finite beings in the inner dimensions and the space-time continuum are part of the archetypes and Yog-Sothoth. And here's the thing, The Great Old Ones are not finite beings, and they exist outside the space-time continuum.
The obvious.
And where's my evidence? Well, the Migo originates from the Ultimate Void, and the Ultimate Void is beyond time and space, and they worship the Great Old Ones. Here in Fungi from Yog-Sothoth, it describes the place where the Great Old Ones live as lacking dimension, time, matter, or space, or form. So yeah, there's my evidence. So really, Through the Gates of the Silver Key only proves that finite dimension beings are part of Yog-Sothoth, and not the Great Old Ones. And lastly, we have Azathoth being a Lord of Chaos or a God of Chaos. Well, the thing is that Lovecraft is clearly using the old Greek definition of chaos, that being the primordial void that predated everything and created everything. This is considering that Lovecraft is a very, very, very odd man in his lifetime, to say the least. The people who knew him said that talking to him is like talking to a Victorian man. He uses a lot of archaic language in casual tones and conversations. Like, he is the super boomer, the mega boomer. He is a boomer among boomers. In his A Confession of Unfaith, Lovecraft admitted that he was once a Greek-Roman pagan in his youth, and is very knowledgeable in Greek cosmology, philosophy, mythology, and history, all through homeschooling from his grandfather. And Azathoth has been stated to be the Lord of All multiple times by Lovecraft, which are the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Fungi from Yog-Sothoth, The Dreams in the Witch House, and The Haunter of the Dark. And he has been described to have created everything in multiple stories. It was very near the center of chaos, where dwells Azathoth, the Lord of all things. All that exists was created by the thoughts of Azathoth. Here, the vast Lord of all in darkness muttered things he had dreamed but could not understand, while near him shapeless bad things flopped and fluttered in idiot vortices that ray streams fanned. They danced insanely to the high, thin whining of a cracked flute clutched in a monstrous paw. Whence flow the aimless waves whose chance combining gives each frail cosmos its eternal law. Azathoth, the mindless lord of nighted chaos, who is the father of all other horrors, and is coeval with the ultimate abyss itself. So really, the claim that Azathoth was never the supreme being in the original Cthulhu Mythos is a complete lie. He has been stated to be the supreme being in multiple stories, explicitly many times in the original Cthulhu Mythos. And here is my last piece of evidence to disprove this misconception. Ever find it odd how the claim that Yog-Sothoth being the supreme being is only present in online power scaling circles, and never in any Lovecraft circles? The Mythos doesn't run short on dubious claims made by fake fans and tourists.
And pseudo-intellectual types.
And there is... Now, for those of you who are going, I never heard of this misconception before. Well, it's because it's purely isolated in power scaling circles, well, online power scaling circles. So that explains why you've probably never heard of it. Just like the claim that Ted Bundy did nothing wrong, only being isolated in Ted Bundy fangirl communities. Yes, it is an actual thing, unfortunately. If a claim is only isolated in one particular section of the internet, and not universal, then it's most likely false. And call me a gatekeeper all you want, but the myth of Yog-Sothoth being the supreme being is the Lovecraft equivalent to the myth of Deku being gay. But instead of Fujoshis who have never read or watched My Hero Academia, and if they did, they would misinterpret a lot of things, it's instead anime fanboys
Or Godzilla fanboys or comic fanboys.
who have never read anything by Lovecraft, and if they did, they would also misinterpret a lot of things. But really, the main crux of this misconception is that it just really shows you how many people don't read anything by Lovecraft or know anything about the Cthulhu Mythos. Since the evidence used for this misconception are taken out of context, and the people who make this claim and spread this misconception have no idea how Lovecraft writes or know about his philosophies and ideologies. And it's very important to know that, because you must consider who, what, when, where, and why. Who was the author? What did he write? Why did he write it? Where was it written? When was it written? You know? Those are important things to consider when dissecting fiction. But because the average power scaler doesn't read and consider these literary dissection tools or dissection principles or whatever, this spreads like a plague. Like, this myth spreads like wildfire. And I shudder to think what new myths and misconceptions will be spawned from those dark pits that they call those power scaling circles. In fact, I'll just make a new myth and let's see how well it performs. Let's see here. Oh yeah, did you know that Hastur is the creator of all of the great old ones? Because he is the king in yellow, and all of the great old ones are yellow. Alright, that's it. And as always, good day, good night, and, beware of Yig.
The scenery, just two crazy people together. How we love sequestering where no pests are pestering, no dear mama holds us in tether. Mosquitoes are here, won't bite you, dear. I'll let them sting me on the finger. We could find no cleaner retreat from life's machinery than our mountain greenery home. When the world was young, oh, Father Adam with sin would grapple, so we're entitled to just one apple. I mean to make applesauce. Underneath the bough, we'll learn a lesson from Mr. Omar. Beneath the eyes of no pa and no ma, old Lady Nature.